following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
It's time to talk some foosball.
Let's light this sucker up.
It's an internet party. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the hosts. To my right is a man who is currently under investigation by the NCAA for possible cheating, but we don't know for sure. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing tonight?
All I did was offer a potential recruit a bagel with cream cheese and also a sack full of money. I don't know what the problem is. Me and Nick Nolte run a clean program down here with the Dolphins.
Blue chips. Shout out to Blue Chips.
Yeah. I couldn't remember. I was gonna try to name the coach's name in that, but it's been too long since I've seen that movie. I can't do it.
Oh man! Well, I mean, you're recruiting a 60-year-old Shaq and a 58-year-old Penny Hardaway, so it's gonna be tough. It's I can understand why you had to get that the extra bagel with the extra schmear. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And then the Larry Bird stand-in, who was like the dirty player, but he was from Indiana and he was a tall white kid. Come on, we know what happened.
That's right.
We know where you were trying to go with that one.
Well, before we get into tonight's episode, we just want to remind you about our socials down here below. It's Twitter, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/at NoCredsREQ. And if you could do us a big old favor, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to all of our social media networks. That'll be very, very helpful. We would certainly appreciate it. On the podcast side and the audio side, subscribe to the podcast on a myriad of podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast. Rate the podcast and review. 5 stars is the number of stars we prefer. And if you're on a platform where you can write a review, we'll even read it on the air. And I don't care if it's execrable or if it's just downright awesome, I'll read the review on the air. And because we are a live show, and Snowman already ticketed in and saying, hey, we want you to engage with us. We want your comments. And Dustin, I know you've been waiting at least 6 days.
Yes.
At least 6 days to hear the beautiful, beautiful Bean music.
Always.
That's right, folks. Again, we are a live show. Engage with us in the comments. We want your comments because that means more people will know about this particular podcast. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, Dustin, I just want to thank you for being a hospital chat. We had a chap. We were a bunch of us had got together at Dustin's house on Sunday to watch all the games on Red Zone. It was a great time. Lots of good food. I made my award-winning chili.
Yeah.
And Dustin made some carnitas, had some nice good tacos, and some good, great company, good food, better company.
It was a great time. I was happy to have everybody over. I'm a little disappointed in the way my carnitas came out. I feel like the crock pot, it lets me down. I want it to be, everybody's like, oh, it's so easy. You dump the stuff in the crock pot and you just forget about it. But I feel like it overcooks the stuff sometimes. You gotta be careful, and I feel like it never comes out as flavorful as I wanted. But I was happy because as a result of using the crock pot, I was able to watch most of the games as opposed to past times when if I've used the smoker or the grill, I'm out there and so you miss a lot of things. So there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons. But I was happy that everybody could come by. Thank you for bringing your chili, and it was very delicious. And I just have two quick shout outs before we really get going. One, if you actually knew Shaq and Penny Hardaway's respective ages off the top of your dome, that's very impressive. And two,
I mean, we'll do some real time research in a second, but I mean, I could be wrong.
And two, how many bowls of the chili have you had? Because we put a dent in it for sure, but you made a big batch. So I'm just wondering, how many days consecutively have you eaten it for leftovers?
Well, I had it for lunch and dinner yesterday.
Yeah.
I also made here's the thing. Before I came over, that bowl, that pot was filled to the brim.
Yeah.
Absolutely positively filled to the brim. So I actually put like 2 or 3 scoops in a container for my dad because my dad loves my chili.
Oh,
I actually
yeah.
have enough left. I actually have enough left to give to my nephew. Because my nephew, about 2 years ago caused a family controversy.
Oh,
I don't know if you know about this, Dustin. He caused some controversy in the family when he revealed on this podcast, he liked my chili better than he liked his mom's.
Oh man, that's CJ Beast was playing with fire on that one. That's
hey man, I mean, he's just spitting truth.
Yeah, he calls him like he sees him. I will tell you, you make a great batch of chili. I've had it multiple times now, and it's always a winner. It's always a winner.
Wonka the Sane chimes in. Actually, funny story. Wonka the Sane. You came up in conversation on Sunday. You asked me what's execrable mean. It's a fancy word for shitty.
Teaching new vocab here on
That's right. We're about real-time research and expanding people's vocabulary on this program.
Yeah.
Now, actually, another thing I want to get to before we get into the meat potatoes of tonight, Dustin has a new nemesis. He's a new broadcasting nemesis, and I'm going to give him the floor to just go off. Dustin, the floor is yours.
Are you talking about one Spiro Ditas? Because
yes.
that I can't stand. I'm sorry, Spiro, but there's something about his delivery. And I'm sure that he's got his fans out there. And hey, he's made it further than I probably ever will. He's calling NFL games. But there's something about his inflection. It doesn't change. He keeps the same pitch no matter what's going on. And I don't know where he's from. I think you said New Jersey is where he is.
Paramus, New Jersey, yeah.
But I don't know where he's got like this thing that he does on his ends. He goes, a touchdown. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. But there's just a few, I don't know. It gets under my skin. But don't worry, Spiro, because you are nowhere near as high on my list as the 72 Dolphins. So I'll just mute you when the game is on. If you're calling my game, I'll mute you and we'll call a truce. But there's just something about it. There's just something about it. He is not at the top of my announcing list. A lot of people have a lot of dislike for Joe Buck out there. I'm not there on some of the Joe Buck hate or dislike. He does an okay job. Is he going to be at the top of my list? No. I'll tell you one of my favorite examples, and we were talking about this at the football gathering. I loved hearing Kenny Singleton call the Yankees games. I miss him, and one of my favorite calls whenever somebody would throw a close pitch, brush somebody back, and if the batter had to get out of the way, Kenny would be like, "Look out!" And just the way he said it was always so good. It was always so good.
Yeah. And I've got some things to say about the NFL officiating.
Oh yeah.
Again,
we'll get into that.
We'll get into that in just a moment. Let's get into our usual formula here, Dustin. Let's talk about the biggest upset from the week. What was your biggest upset from week 7?
Well, I thought I had this game picked when everyone left my house on Sunday. I said, I know what I'm picking for the biggest upset. Nobody saw it coming. Then Monday night happened, and I went, whoa. Shout out to the Vikings because I did not see this coming. The 49ers, I expected them to just shut down the Vikings completely, especially without Justin Jefferson. And but old Captain Kirk, he showed up in prime time, and the much maligned Viking defense, which we have both taken our shots at over our time period on this program. They got some timely picks of Brock Purdy, and it was probably his worst game to date, I would say. And the Vikings, Jordan Addison looks like an absolute star in the making here. And the Vikings come out of Santa Clara, I believe. No, it was in Minnesota. They get a clutch home win, which, if you look at the press conference after the game, Kirk Cousins gives a massive shout out to Creed. Apparently, they've been listening to Creed in the locker room. And get this, Ryan, he closed the press conference with, "They've been taking us higher, so we'll take it."
Well, apparently Creed is back because the Texas Rangers have been playing higher at the end of every home win. So they didn't really get to play it the last round because they lost all 3 home games. But you'll see them in the World Series. We'll find out tonight who they played in the World Series. So game 1.
And condolences to Snowman. I saw him earlier in the chat. Shout out to you, Snowman. But if I remember correctly, you are an Astros fan, or
he's a White Sox fan, but he's also a pseudo Astros fan because he knows the radio play-by-play call. Cole Johnson's a big Astros fan too.
Okay.
And he this morning was not in a great mood.
I can imagine. Okay, so I wasn't totally wrong, because then when you said White Sox, I said, yeah, I remember. But so condolences to Mr. Johnson, then, big Astros fan. But I myself, and I might get myself a little kettle of hot water, but I'm kind of happy to see the Rangers get there, because they haven't had much to celebrate in recent years. So, and it was a surprise that I didn't see coming, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, the Rangers, nobody said you spend $800 million, you got to find a way to win. And not only they had the $800 million they spent over the last couple off seasons, but there's some homegrown talent too. Adolis Garcia. I mean, nobody saw that. I didn't see that coming. I didn't even know who Adolis Garcia was until the postseason.
Yeah,
or the home run derby.
I only knew who he was because I had him on my fantasy team last year. But that's it.
Yeah. So but yeah, my biggest upset, the same thing. The Vikings or the 49ers. And fun fact, the 49ers are actually still winless. Entering this game, they were winless all time at US Bank Stadium, still winless.
Wow.
And I was really surprised to find that Kirk 2 Chainz Cousins, shout out to Ben Sutters III, owner of the BS3 network. Gotta get him on this program too. I'm just really surprised that he didn't wilt in prime time like he usually does. He had a pretty decent game, and kudos to him, and actually kudos to the Vikings defense. Apparently they're starting to find their stride as the Vikings have won the last 3 in a row. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, especially we'll get to the matchups we're watching in just a few minutes. But yeah, this result was just as surprising for me as it was for you, Dustin, and which kind of leads us to, and since we're talking about NFC North teams, it's going to lead us into our biggest disappointment. And we talked about this on Sunday about our biggest disappointments of the week. Listen, last week I lauded the Detroit Lions. I considered them a possible top seed in the NFC. I also considered them a possible Super Bowl team. And they went out and laid the biggest egg of the week with that 38-6 loss in Baltimore. And they got motorboated. Yeah, straight up motorboated. It was not even close. I mean, the Ravens scored their first 4 possessions of the game.
Yeah.
Didn't look back. They were taking everything in stride. And I believe this game had Lion fans begging for the NFL not to schedule Baltimore or Seattle for that fact ever again.
Well, I don't know how how much time will pass until they play the Seahawks again, because it's been weird. The Seahawks and Lions have played each other for the last 3 years in a row, and they've been great games every time. So I mean, I don't know how it keeps happening, but yeah. I expected the Lions to show up in this one too. I think everybody was surprised by this result, because prior to this, they had looked very good. They had looked like one of the better teams in the NFC, and happy for Lions fans, because they've been taking a lot of garbage for a lot of years, and it was kind of like, hey, maybe this is their shot, maybe this is their time, and this is, I think, to some degree, a temporary road bump, but I think it also speaks that Baltimore may be better than we thought they were going to be. They may be finding their stride as well.
Yeah, I said it on Snowman in the morning on Monday, 10:35 Eastern. Go ahead and watch that or listen to that. Mondays at 10:35 Eastern. I said, if you're gonna lay an egg, do it at the beginning of the year. Don't do it if there's a playoff spot in the line or the division on the line. Because I was noting to the BC Lions of the CFL, and now they were battling for first place in the West Division, and they laid a big old egg on Friday night against Calgary. So if like I said, if you're in line, and probably it's a good thing that the Lions get this out of the way now. Get it out of the way now, so you don't do it in November, December, or January when the playoff rush is coming, and you got to fight for a playoff spot. Now, that was my biggest disappointment of the week, Dustin. Who was your biggest disappointment of the week?
Oh, well, yours was a very good pick. And I thought about picking it, but the more I thought about this game, the more I decided to go with the Buffalo Bills. Because in my opinion, now I know that the Bills defense has some injuries. There's been some guys that are out for the season that were key players for them. There was a couple more defensive injuries this game. Von Miller is not all the way back. They've got him on a proverbial snap count. So they are not at full strength on the defensive side of the ball by any means. But still, offensively alone, you have the talent. You should have been able to beat a Patriots team, despite Bill Belichick's wizardry and scheming. The Patriots defense hasn't exactly been a dominant unit this year so far, to my memory. And also, Mac Jones has looked borderline inept at points, and he had unquestionably, in my mind, his best game as a pro. And I don't think this is like some rebirth of the Patriots offense. In my opinion, this was a team that Buffalo still should have been able to beat, even with their defensive woes. They have the offensive firepower to surpass this team. So This was a big loss.
Yeah. And it didn't help all those injuries right now are starting to catch up to the Bills. They had, we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago, when two defensive starters went down with injury, and they're out indefinitely, if not through the end of the season. So it's starting to catch up to them. You let a team like a struggling team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, like New England, get the better of you. That's gonna. I mean, like I said last week, this was desperation city for both the Bills and the Patriots, because the Patriots, this might have saved their season, although still got a long way to go. But for the Bills, they had a chance to keep up with the Dolphins in the division. Looking for them, Miami lost their game against the Eagles, but it's just too bad. Although I will say it's fortuitous for my Jets, because they're a half game behind the Bills still.
Yeah,
and they also got a shot to catch up to the Dolphins too. And I said last week they have a chance to go on a run, getting away from the biggest disappointments from this week's from the Bills. But on starting on Sunday, they got a chance to go on a run, and with two of the teams ahead of them that lost, they still got a chance. So, as always, or the last couple weeks, gotta play the sound for our biggest disappointments of the week. Gotta play it.
There's our man with the whiskey too.
At least they tried.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the most entertaining game. Dustin, I think you and I agree.
Oh yeah. There was one clear pick for
There's
this.
one clear pick for this game. Go ahead and reveal it to the audience, Dustin. What was the most entertaining game for the week?
Well, it was what we all expected. It was that Browns Colts barn burner. Everyone predicted this. No, it was a great game to watch. It was unbelievable. And it's fitting that the game had lead changes. It had so many things. It had a defensive standout without me spoiling one of our categories later. But it is fitting to come off our biggest disappointment, because I think for both of us, and I'm going to let you take the floor after this, but all I'm going to say is the Colts got robbed. But the biggest disappointment could also be considered the NFL officiating from this game. I cede the floor to you, sir.
Yeah, let's go to the most important part of the game, and that was the Browns driving down the field with some time left in the. They were down by. They were down. Let's see, they were down by 5, with about less than 2 minutes left to go. They're driving down the field, and you see a bad snap. Actually, you see the Colts defense get the ball from PJ Walker, because Deshaun Watson, although Kevin Stefanski revealed later in the game that, Deshaun Watson could have gone back in, but we wanted to protect our most important player. Okay. All right, Kevin Stefanski. But you see the Colts get to PJ Walker, fumbles the ball, Colts recover, laundry. Illegal contact on the Colts, automatic first down. Like, oh, come on. I looked at the replay too. It didn't look like it was much contact in the field, period.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see Watson, PJ Walker try to throw a pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones, clearly uncatchable. Laundry.
Yeah.
Pass interference.
That was the big one for me.
That broke my back. That broke my back. And he gets to the 1 yard line. Cleveland winds up scoring. I believe they missed the 2-point conversion. It didn't matter anyway. They were up 1, and with less than 15 seconds to go. But look, I not so much complain about this, but we've talked about it. And it's you hear it ad nauseum on this show, on other shows about the officiating. Get some full-time officiating so that everyone knows the rules. And I get it. It's human error. It's everybody's human. We make mistakes. But the same mistake happens over and over and over and over again every single week, and it impacts the results of games. Go back to week 5 when I talked about the Jets and how 2 bad calls cost them the chance to get the ball back with less than 5 minutes left in the game. 2 bad calls and 1 non-call cost the Jets the game. Same thing for the Browns. Two calls that should not have been called cost. I'm sorry, the Colts. Excuse me. Yeah, the Colts. Yeah. The Colts. 2 bad calls cost them a chance of winning this game. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get the Colts are going to get an apology letter later this week from NFL officiating. NFL officiating saying, we blew that call. But how do you avoid apology letters later in the week? You tighten up your stuff during the offseason from week to week. If you say that the referees are being audited and they're being, I won't say fined, but they're being graded for their performances, reveal them to the public. Make these audits public. Show us where you're making the mistakes. Because look, you've got Major League Baseball wound up suspending Angel
Hernandez.
Hernandez
Yeah.
finally,
Oh my
after the
goodness.
it said, sit down, you're done for the rest of the year, because he's had so many complaints on him, whether his strike zone's too wide or strike zone's too narrow.
Or throwing out people for nothing. He's
Yeah.
ejected people for the most minute of offenses.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna get to a situation where we're going to have this is going to cost people their sanity. It's going to cost people their jobs. This is going to cost wins for other teams. This cost the Colts a win.
Mhm.
Two really egregious calls, really bad calls, and there's no accountability. There seems to be no accountability, at least publicly, about this officiating for the NFL. And I hate to complain. I hate to sound like a broken record, but they need to straighten this out. They need to straighten this out during the offseason.
Yeah.
Talked about it last year. Pretty sure I talked about it the year before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like sounding like a broken. I hate to say on this hobby horse, but I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay right here, and I'm pretty sure other programs are saying the same thing.
Yeah, and sometimes you can see the difference too. I mean, I watch football, but I don't break it down to the degree that some people do. I watch it mostly as a fan. I have a cursory knowledge of the game, but I don't have like deep knowledge of the game. But even I can see when certain crews are on games, you're like, okay, there's going to be a lot of flags. There's going to be a lot of flags, a lot of ticky-tack calls for this game. And it became a running joke last year on the show. I could say there's a noticeable difference between a Jerome Boger-led crew versus other officiating crews. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing.
Yeah. And also the late flags, too. The late flags drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Can we just call it like it is? I mean, this was the most entertaining game of the week.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the officiating spoiled the outcome of it, and what would have been an awesome finish.
Yeah, because both teams, I mean, at certain points, it defies logic. The Browns' defense was good enough because PJ Walker's stat line in that game was egregious after he came in. Old Gardner Minshew threw, I think, 4 TDs, but he also had like 3 fumbles. I'm telling you, this game was a crazy game. If you didn't see it, go back on NFL Network. Hopefully they'll replay it. Watch the replay because it's worth watching, but it might boil your blood at the end because of the officiating here.
Or you have or if you have NFL Plus, you can do the same thing. Oh, by the way, I did some real-time research. Penny Hardaway's actually older than Shaq.
Oh,
Penny
wow.
Hardaway's 52 and Shaq is 51.
Oh, so. All right. Hey, well, you were close because what'd you say, 50 and 48 or something like that?
No, I said 61 and 52.
Oh, all right.
Like 58.
All right.
I thought they were older, but I'm sorry, Shaq, and I'm sorry, Penny. I know you're big fans of the show. I'm sorry I got your age wrong.
Yeah, they've been watching, and little Penny watches too. That's right. Remember that? Throwback.
You ever hear Ken Garnett? Kevin Garnett. All right, we're going to take our first commercial break. Let's hear from our friends at SeatGeek. Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets. That's right, folks. SeatGeek is our premier partnership sponsor with Belly Up Sports. Go to SeatGeek.com. Find your ticket. Sporting events. Again, sporting events. Go to an NFL game. Major League Baseball. World Series is here. Get yourself a cheap ticket there. NHL season's in full effect. NBA season starts tonight, which we really don't cover in this program, but that's okay. If you're an NBA fan, you want to get out to a game, go to SeatGeek.com. You enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. Get $20 off your first order of $50 or more. But like that handsome man said in the commercial, it's not just sporting events. Get comedy shows, get tickets to comedy shows, tickets to Broadway plays, tickets to musicals, anything that requires music shows, anything that requires a ticket at the box office, you could probably find it at SeatGeek. And again, save $20 off your first order of $50 or more with a promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. All right, moving on to the most notable performance of the week. And since we're on that train with the Colts and the Browns, my most notable performance of the week was Myles Garrett. He is somebody who's I got on my radar for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
He's my primary candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. In this game, he had 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, a strip sack that led to a touchdown, and a blocked field goal on an amazing play. Look it up. Look up the play on YouTube. If you have NFL Plus, check out that replay. Check it out. I mean, it's everywhere. That field goal block was just incredible. We watched it. We watched it live on Red Zone.
Yeah.
It was an incredible play.
It was audible. I think we all went, "Oh!" It was one of those moments.
Like, whoa!
And Wonko, I know you'll remember this, but it was shades of Cam Chancellor doing the same type of play many moons ago during that Legion of Boom era defense. But Myles Garrett, unbelievable.
Yeah, what a performance, Dustin. For you, your most notable
Well,
performance.
I guess things I got a theme going for the next section of the show here, but on National Tight Ends Day, I do have to give the nod to Mr. Kelce, 12 receptions, 179 yards, and 1 lowly touchdown, but by Kelce's standards, that's kind of a down touchdown total, but his
breaking news, our viewership just went up from the mostly from the Swifties, because you mentioned Travis Kelce.
Yep, the Swifties are tuning in, and Taylor too. We know you watch. Even though you spurned me from that picnic, trust me, it was going to be good. It was going to be good, but I forgive you.
You had really great wine picked out.
I did.
I
had a charcuterie board.
Charcuterie board.
Yeah. But I got to give the nod to him, and maybe it was just the National Tight End Day, but it just it was a really great performance, and they were shredding it up. His totals at half were ridiculous, along with Patrick Mahomes, but I may talk about him just a little later, but I got to give the nod to Kelce for now.
This segment was brought to you by Tanzel's House of Carcucci's. Stuff the run and stuff your face. Tanzel's House of Carcucci's. Moving on to our hottest individual take of the week, Dustin. Since you're on that train with the Chiefs, I'll let you take this one. So what's your hottest individual take from this week?
All right, and no disrespect to any of the Chiefs fans out there. I have one in my family. He's been a diehard, and I was happy for him when the Chiefs won for the first time in a while years ago. But I have to say the Chiefs look much less dominant to me so far to start this season, and it is clear to me Patrick Mahomes, by his standards, has not looked like himself, with the exception of this past week. This past week, he started to right the ship a little bit. But to me, and let me know if you agree, Ryan, but to me, the Chiefs' offense, they've lost too many pieces now. They're starting to look a little one-dimensional, and it's looking first of all, we saw what can happen in week 1 without the safety valve of one Travis Kelce, who I just talked about. We always knew that Patrick Mahomes relied on 2 things, or well, 3 things. 1, his fantastic arm. 2, his athletic ability. And 3, Travis Kelce. And without one of those things, the Chiefs' offense looks not so. They don't have as many pieces around them as they once did. It used to be, okay, who's going to get the ball in this Chiefs offense? And the running back, Isaiah Pacheco's been okay at spots, but it's not as cut and dry. And I think, and this might be an unpopular take, but I think the division that the Chiefs are in helps them immensely this year, because look where the Raiders are. the dumpster fire that is the Broncos, and we know the Chargers are going to blow games. If the Chiefs were in a more competitive division, their road to the playoffs would be a lot harder. I do not think they are going to go as far as some people think they will this year.
Here's my question. Do you think the loss of Eric Bieniemy and the fact that Matt Nagy is calling the offensive plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, do you think that has a lot to do with their offense? I mean, their defense is their defense is a very good defense. They're underrated because you hear so much about their offense. But
yes,
is that part of the reason why? I mean, they got Mecole Hardman back this past week. They had that trade with the Jets, and he was my player to watch last week to see how he would factor into the offense. I would say he didn't do a whole lot, but he had a big punt return that led to the touchdown that kind of sealed the deal for the Chiefs. But overall, do you think the loss of the Bieniemy going somewhere else and adding on Matt Nagy has kind of an impact on what the Chiefs are doing offensively?
Yeah, I think it may. I think it may, because for all you need to do too is, now Washington has a lot of problems, but you got to give it to Bieniemy. They've looked like, for the most part, they've looked like a more competent offense despite the rest of their struggles, and at points just getting completely destroyed in certain games. But I think the loss of Bieniemy should not be overlooked. And perhaps you have to wonder if Andy Reid, now I don't think so, because as I've said, the Chiefs division does them a lot of favors. But if things offensively started to go south, you have to wonder if Andy Reid would kind of take a more active role in the offensive play calling. But I also think they've been able to just plug pieces in over the last couple of years, but now I feel like they've just lost too many pieces. It's been so they lose their coordinator, they lose Tyreek Hill, they lose, it just is like a slow thing that happens with Super Bowl teams. If you win the Super Bowl, everybody starts looking at you and everybody starts chipping off your pieces, and eventually it's going to catch up with you, even when you're fantastic. And now I think it's to the point where if Patrick Mahomes has a down game by his standards, you're going to start seeing the difference.
Yeah. But my hottest individual take from this week, and I'm pretty sure most people agree with this, the Miami Dolphins, I think they're afraid to get dirty.
Yeah.
They can't seem to keep up with teams that punch them in the mouth and punch them in the mouth early. It happened against Buffalo, and they were routed. It happened against Philadelphia. They hung with Philadelphia for a while, only because of that pick six that took place in the third quarter. But after that, the Eagles. Here's a funny thing I saw on Twitter. One thing that the Eagles defense. Actually, the Eagles defense couldn't do that they did to Tua. They couldn't make Zach Wilson turn the ball over, but they could make Tua Tagovailoa turn the ball over. I think he threw one or two picks in that game and had a fumble. But the Dolphins, their record, they're I think a lot of people are, if they don't pick things up and start, they can throw the ball around, but here's the thing. Here's a key stat that came in that you saw coming into this game. Against the 5 wins they had were against teams with a combined 5-24 record.
Wow. Yeah.
And against teams that are above 500, they're 0-2. So I'm beginning to wonder, and I think and I'm saying this as an objective football fan. I'm not saying this as a Jets fan. I'm not saying this because the Dolphins are the rival of a team that I follow. But you gotta wonder if this team is a fraudulent team. Yeah, they got outstanding offense. They know how to do the cheat motion, and they got tons of speed. But if you play physical against this team, you're going to win. You're going to win that game, especially if you get Tyreek. I mean, look what Sauce. Look at if you can get in Tyreek Hill's face early, frustrate him to the point where he's shoving your cornerback who's sticking on you. You get in their heads early, you're going to win that game. You're going to win that game. And I think it's going to be very difficult. It's they talk about Miami, all the pundits talking about Miami being a Super Bowl contender. Oh, the Super Bowl contender, one of the best offenses ever. They can't win against teams that are physical against them, but on both sides of the ball. I think the defense is like soft. I think like soft serve. I think the offense, if you get in their face early enough, they're gonna get flustered, and they're not gonna be as fast, or they're gonna be as explosive as they usually are.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say the frauds this early, but look at who they play. Look at who their 5 wins are against. Look at their 2 losses are against. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I don't think you're entirely wrong on that at all. I think they are rapidly becoming one of those teams that is getting the tag of a quote unquote finesse team. You know how it's been a tale is old in time in sports. It was the knock against the Showtime Lakers of the 80s, you know, that if you played physical against them, they weren't going to be able to fight back. Now they proved, they went out and got some players, changed the makeup of their team, and they proved that they had some guys that were willing to get physical on you. So they kind of shook that moniker, but there's been other that was the going back a little bit to the early 2000s and the late 90s. That was the knock against some of those Peyton Manning led Colts teams, was that they were a finesse team. They could throw the ball all over the place, but their defense couldn't stop anybody. And if you jumped on them early and hit them in the mouth, they'd kind of sputter out a little bit. And it was to some degree also a knock against those early 2000s Rams teams. And also to go a little bit further back, and it's appropriate because the Titans are going to be breaking out their uniforms this week, but I think it was the 94 Oilers, I think, kind of had that rep as well, you know, with the Warren Moon led Oilers. I think those are some of the teams where they had these great offenses, but they were kind of called finesse teams, which in sports it's kind of code for saying you're not physical enough. If somebody punches you, you can't respond.
Yeah, and it was all that finesse teams that, you know, Peyton Manning went to the NFL and said, "You gotta change the rule," and now we have all these penalties on defense now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna sum it up for Week 7. Let us know what's your most entertaining game, most notable performance, your disappointments, your highest individual take of the week is in the comments. But for now, we're gonna take a quick break from our friends at Invader Coffee. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. That's right, folks. Help the show. Visit the affiliate link in the description. Order some great coffee from our friends at Invader Coffee, veteran-owned, based out of Austin, Texas. They make some of the best coffee your money can buy. And I finally dug into the bag of pumpkin pecan over the last couple of days. It's a solid blend. It's a solid full blend. I'll admit it.
Yeah,
Kind of skeptical at first, but
yeah,
right.
I like it. I like it. Like I said, they do a great job over at Invader because in their flavored coffee, it's never overwhelming. It lets the coffee shine through, but also you're like, oh, this is there. You know, I just really like it. I know you've talked a lot about the holiday blends that are coming. I am waiting for those two with bated breath, and I've got to get my hands on more Donut Dealer. You know what? I'm going to do that after the show, and I'm going to use our affiliate link, and I'm going to enter the code to get the discount, right? So you should all do the same out there. Get some coffee for your French press or your Keurig or whatever you use.
Yep. They do have K-Cups. They do have the K-Cups for their original OG blend. I believe they also have it for their whiskey blend as well. So if you're into whiskey flavored coffee, get yourself some Invader coffee. And again, use the link in the description. That's our affiliate link. You help the show. You also get some great coffee, and you support a veteran-owned business. And what's wrong? What's the bad thing about all that? All right, NFL Week 8. We're already at Week 8. We're just about halfway. We're just creeping up to the halfway mark of the year. Let's talk about our most intriguing matchups of the week. Dustin, who do you have as your most intriguing matchup of this week?
My most intriguing matchup may surprise you and it may surprise everybody, but my most intriguing matchup when I was looking at the slate, it's the Jets versus the Giants for me for a couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first reason is I want to see how the Jets are off of their bye. As you said, their schedule becomes a little bit more favorable. So I want to see if they can go on that run that you were talking about. And I want to see how Zach Wilson plays against what seems to me to be an improving Giants defense. Are they all the way to where they were last year? No, but they seem to be putting it together a little bit. And from the Giants side of things, I don't know for sure. I could be wrong, but I think Tyrod Taylor. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. There's been
Tyrod.
there's been some consternation about it. But okay, Tyrod, I want to see how he does again if he plays, because to my eye, the Giants have looked a little bit more competent with him at the helm. I'm going to say it. So I want to see, especially if he ends up performing well against a Jets defense that is for real. Will there be a quarterback issue there in for the Big Blue for the G-men? So I'm going to be watching this matchup closely, and I know you will too, because it's your team. But what is your?
I'll be chirping my big brother Jim, because it's his team the whole game.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how the new and improved Giants defense does against this. It's this. The Jets give a different wrinkle with Breece Hall in the backfield, and he's run the ball, and he's been pretty dominant in the backfield, and Zach Wilson making some key plays. Let's see how they do against the Giants, and let's see how this Jets defense does against a better Giants team. But they only scored 14 points against the Commanders last week. So I'll be curious to see how this Giants offensive line, who played a little better, but not great against the Commanders. Let's see how they do against the Jets and their vaunted pass rush. Had one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. My game of the week, in terms of most intriguing matchup, I got the Bengals and the 49ers. This is the rematch of Super Bowls 16 and 23. And the Niners are on a little bit of a slide right now. They've had 2 away games. They lost both games. They were very close games. Once because they won the first game against the Browns was because of injuries to key players. Deebo Samuel is going to be out for this game as well. I believe he's out for, I think, next week's game and possibly the next, with a hairline fracture in the shoulder. McCaffrey played. Death taxes and a Christian McCaffrey rushing touchdown. But the Niners will be home against a Bengals team that's coming off a bye week. They've had some struggles, just like last season. It's some early struggles, and they turn it on, and they won the AFC North division. But I'm curious to see how Joe Burrow, if he's going to continue to struggle. Although he had a pretty good game a couple weeks ago against Arizona. I'm just curious to see. It's one of the late matchups on Sunday. I want to see if the Niners can get off the schneid, and Dustin, it's fortuitous for your Seahawks.
Yes.
You're watching that division.
I always
see if the Seahawks can keep up with the Niners in that division. See if the Niners can get off the schneid with some home cooking, or if the Bengals can get on track and start their run just like they had last year when they won the AFC North division. Desperation City is up next, and I've got the Falcons and the Titans as Desperation City. Falcons are rolling. The Falcons are rolling right now. They come off of two consecutive walk-off wins by Young Hui Koo with those two walk-off field goals against Houston and again last week against Tampa Bay. Titans are coming off a bye and they're wearing their Oilers uniforms. Oh, I hate it. Give those uniforms and those colors back to Houston, please. I beg of you, Bud Adam, the Adams family, literally the Adams family, give them back. But it's reported that Mike Vrabel was quoted as saying today. I'm paraphrasing that you could see both. You see Malik Willis. As well as their other rookie quarterback, as well as the rookie quarterback Will Levis.
Will Levis, yeah.
In this game because Ryan Tannehill's still battling an ankle injury, so it's desperation city because the Titans are sitting at 2-3, trying to get themselves back in the AFC South division race, and the Falcons, they're surprisingly low key. I know our guy Stacey Morgan from the Morgan Man podcast has got to be appreciative of their efforts so far this year. Mm-hmm. What about you, Dustin? What's Desperation City? Which teams are in Desperation City this week for you?
Well, for me, it's going to be the Saints versus the Colts. And as we've detailed, the Colts are kind of there through no fault of their own. Both of these teams are 3-4, but I'm going to say the feel is very different for both teams. The Colts, nobody really expected much from them. They got jobbed a little bit. Their division, the Texans have looked better than we thought they were going to be. The Jags are there, and the Colts are hanging around. So that AFC South is turning into a somewhat competitive division. So the Colts, I want to see if they can rebound from the ripoff that they suffered. And the Saints have got to do something because the Saints, it seems like they are a team at 3-4 where it seems like they're on the verge of the wheels coming off. And Derek Carr, he looked all right trying to bring the Saints back in their Thursday night loss to the Jaguars last week, but he largely has not looked good in this, and the Saints need to figure something out to right their season because, as you just said, the Falcons, they seem like one of those teams. They're not going to go away. Now, I've already compared a coach to a disease from the Knee-High Park sketch in Chappelle's show on this show. And I'm not going to do it, but you can all.
Oh, hello, Dave Chappelle. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you can all connect the dots. The Falcons aren't going away, so they're Knee-High Park in their own way. So the Saints got to figure something out.
Oh goodness, Knee-High Park.
Yeah.
All right, the next category for week 8 is we would rather drink castor oil. The castor oil game of the week. Sponsors needed here. Then watch this game. Dustin, I'm going to have you lead off for this one. Which game would you rather drink castor oil than watch this week?
Well, luckily for me, the game that I picked, I probably won't see all of it because I'll be at bowling, but it is the Monday night game for me. And my reasoning behind this one is simple, and who knows? I could be totally wrong because I was wrong before when I used this kind of logic. But to me, Dan Campbell is going to have his Lions team ready to play. They're going to be angry and they want to redeem themselves after that loss that they took, that thumping that they took at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens. And the bad news is for the Las Vegas Raiders, who their opponent will be on that Monday night game, it looks like Brian Hoyer is going to remain at quarterback because I do not think Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back. And it wasn't like the Raiders looked like world beaters with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm, but with Brian Hoyer at the helm, they did not look great. So this one could be over early. I don't think it's going to be very entertaining. I think it's going to be one-sided.
Speaking of not great, for the second consecutive week, I had the Green Bay Packers as part of the Castor Oil Game of the Week. They're playing the Minnesota Vikings at home. And somehow, I know why, because it's the Denver Broncos. They let the Packers back into that game last week.
Yeah.
And Jordan Love threw that interception that clinched the game. He's a young quarterback that's kind of still learning. A bit of a learning curve for him, considering who he's replacing. But they're playing a Vikings team that's got a lot of momentum right now. They've won the last 3 games. Their defense is coming together. Their offense is doing just enough to keep them in games, especially with Jordan Addison stepping up with the absence of Justin Jefferson, Kirk Chain's Cousins playing like he does. He won't be on prime time. Won't be the feature game. I don't believe that. I don't think that this week is the Fox game of the America's Game of the Week. This match is going to be the Fox Game of the Week. I hope not, because if they do, they got problems. But
Spiroditas with the call on that one.
Oh no!
I don't know for sure. I don't know.
Does Fox have an equivalent of Spiroditas? I think he's just the most unique bad announcer I've probably ever heard. And as a Jets fan, I had to suffer through him and calling our games over the last 4 seasons. So hopefully none of that nonsense for this week when they play. And actually, that Giants Jets game is going to be a CBS game. And I'm praying no Spiro Diaz on the call. My player to watch in week 8. We're going to go with our players to watch in week 8. I've got CJ Stroud. The Texans are 3-3, coming off the bye. We give our flowers to this Texans team, to CJ Stroud, to D'Amico Ryans. Coming off a bye week, they're going to face a Panthers team that's also coming off a bye. They're winless, and it's the first matchup between the first 2 picks of this past April's draft. And I'm kind of curious to see what he'll do against a rather, no pun intended, toothless Panthers defense. If he's going to throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns, if he's going to throw for 300 yards, if they're going to balance things out, maybe use the run a little bit to keep Stroud safe. But I'm kind of curious to see what CJ Stroud can do in this game. Dustin, who's your player or players to watch this week?
Well, as you just alluded to with that subtle S there, I kind of cheated, but I can sum it up real easy. This week, the Seahawks play the Browns, and the Seahawks have an offensive line that's kind of been pieced together because of injuries. And offensive line coach Andy Dickerson has done a great job piecing the line together and coaching them up after Lucas and Cross went down in week 1. Lucas, I believe he might be out for the year. I think Cross is trying to get back. But they all, as a collective unit, they have to block Myles Garrett, and I am scared. So I will be watching the Seahawks offensive line very closely this week, as hopefully they protect Geno Smith from the scourge that is Myles Garrett to opposing offenses and quarterbacks. And like you said, they need to win this game. I'd like them to keep pace with the Niners, but it's going to be no picnic against that Browns defense.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Even though the Browns defense gave up 38 points last week to a pretty impressive Colts team.
Yeah.
They got lucky with that, with the thanks for the help of the officiating. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how the Seahawks will counter Myles Garrett and the rest of that defense for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It'll be an intriguing matchup. One more comment before we take off. Walker the saying, thanks, guys. Cool show. Sorry for lack of comments. Cooking and doing laundry. Hey, man, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
We get it.
We're happy to have you here.
You're adulting. We're happy to have you here listening, at least having us in the background. So,
yeah,
doing your adult thing. So, before we go, just want to remind you about our social media channels right here on Twitter, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. If you're watching on Rumble, give us a follow. And also, just want to remind you to like, comment, share, and subscribe on all of our social media channels. Be very helpful. On the podcast side, you can subscribe to the podcast on a myriad of podcast networks, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you podcast. Give us a subscribe. Give us a listen. Rate and review. 5 stars is the number of stars that we would appreciate you rating us. If you are able to review on a platform that allows reviews, we'll even read your review on the air. So that's going to do it for this edition of No Credentials Required. We want to thank you for watching or listening to this week. And again, this is No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Good night, everybody. www.extralife.org.
Oh,
I'm
yep,
2 weeks away.
That's right.
2 weeks away. Well, under 2 weeks. So you see the link in my byline there. If you can donate, I would appreciate it. I am raising money for the Bernard and Millie Duker Children's Hospital at Albany Med, raising money to help sick kids. I'm going to be trying to play video games for 24 straight hours on Saturday, November 4th, starting at 9 a.m. over on Twitch TV. And like I said, stop by, join me, and I'll be there. And I'll be there for a long day. So feel free to comment, stop by, and like I said, donate if you can. I would appreciate it.
And you might even see this guy make an appearance.
Yes.
On the stream, playing video games rather poorly, but still playing video games.
Well, that's what I do.
But giving all the support I can to Dustin for this very, very noble cause. So I'll put the link up. I'll pop the link in the description, and also send it out in the socials so you can donate.
Awesome.
End goal is $1,100. So if you can find it in your heart to give, we both would really appreciate it. But again, thanks for watching or listening. We'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody. Again.